I had a dream last night. I was sitting in my grandparents' living room around a small, low, round table that was there for many, many years. I was a child and I was kneeling at the table, and there were familiar foods on the table. We were Italian family, you can imagine there's always food. And my two grandparents were sitting on the couch. And I could feel the edge of that table and the carpet under my legs, as if I was there. And I could smell food. And most of all, I could feel the love between my grandparents in that moment. It was a brief dream, and I woke and felt a kind of warmth, a sense of security from the love that was present in that dream. Amazingly, I came in this morning, and as I usually do, I read some poetry and psalms, and in the 16th psalm, I read down and found a line that said, "And also my heart is instructed in the night." My heart is instructed in the night. Today, I stand before you with an instructed heart. Because the dream for me was a memory, in a sense. A memory of my family that is now gone. I think memory has two functions. One is to protect us and to keep us moving through the daily activities. If anyone remembers the film Memento, about a man who wakes up every morning with no memory of who he is or where he is or what he's doing, and has tattooed his whole body to try to help him figure this out, you know the terror of not having memory lands you in a kind of purgatory of life. Memory is there to protect us and help us through the day, orient and heal. It is also there to love us back to ourselves. Now, we filter memory for sure. If I asked you what happened last month, you might tell me a version of that story that was either much more horrible than it was or much more wonderful. I think mostly we tend to filter toward the wonderful. We idealize the people in our past, the people who haven't hurt us, the people who we love and loved us. And their memories, I think, have a particular function in our spiritual lives. That is to positively nourish our hearts and souls with love. They give us spiritual nourishment, like in that dream that I had just early this morning. And that kind of memory that filters into a spiritual nourishment is why we have these photos up here. It's why we have All Souls Day in the church. We didn't bring those who we hated, did we? We brought those who we loved and loved us, nourished us. And in remembering, in telling their stories, in sharing their stories with our friends, I can't tell you how many people stopped and showed me photos and told me who they were. In doing this, we collectively receive a nourishment of the Spirit. Their love present now. Today we acknowledge the terrible and wonderful truth that we live and we die, and what we do in between matters. We are facing the fact that has no escape, that makes all the difference. And as a minister, I have seen 3 responses to death. I have seen dread. I have seen those who ignored it, preferring denial, and I have seen those who have accepted it. There are important aspects of each. Dread is real. Death means the end of things. It means the end of our activities, of our duties, of the things we've built up in ourselves and around us, of our relations, and maybe most importantly, of our individuality. Death emphasizes our solitary nature, making dread honest. But it's dread only if we measure our lives by the events and shifts and changes, those things that are outside of ourselves. Superficial things, rather than things of the Spirit. True life is something that grows and continues to live in us and beyond us. In this way, death has no sway on our lives. It has no hold on us. We participate, in a sense, in the eternal. Let me say more. Religion has taught this lesson over and over. The grass dies, but life goes on. The flesh dies, but the spirit goes on. When we realize that we live in the eternal, not from point to point in our physical lives, we live into a greater stream and feel comfort and love and not fear, not dread, as death nears. Here's an example. I was with a member of our church a couple weeks ago who himself was a principled and spiritual man. He told me as he lay dying in his bed, "I just want to get out of here," he said. I asked him if he feared anything. He shook his head no. I asked him if his universalist spirit was strong. He shook his head yes. I know he felt the love of God present in his dying. The moment eternal, whatever you want to call it. He died with a kind of peace, an acceptance that wasn't of the physical world, but was of the spiritual. That's a good death. Easing off into the river, as it were. Not with dread, but with even anticipation of a new adventure of the Spirit. A comfort, a love nourished. I wish that I will be in that position when I go. This year in my life, I have seen 3 people I know, 1 friend and 2 acquaintances, all in their 50s. I see now how my friends will begin to slip away, directly related to and correlated to my age, I know. I tell myself not to fear. I tell myself that these lives that passed are with me, not ghosts, for I don't believe in ghosts. Not waiting for me in heaven. I am agnostic on heaven. But in real life, I am joined to them and all who have gone in seeing the eternal in their lives, in what they nourish in me, in the altars we create, in the memories and the love we share, in the presence of them that is as real as someone you can reach out and touch right now. That is why remembrance is important. We touch the eternal when we remember. It asks us what we love. It asks us what is important. Howard Thurman wrote this: He said again and again it comes, a time of recollection, a season of remembrance, speaking of this time of year. Empty vessels of hope fill up again. Forgotten treasures of dreams reclaim their place. Lost memories come trooping back to me. This is my season of remembrance, he says, my time of recollection. Into the challenge of my anguish, I throw the strength of all my hope. I match the darts of my despair with treasures of my dreams. Upon the current of my heart, he says, I float the burdens of the years. I challenge the mind of death with my love of life. Such to me is the time of recollection, he says, the season of remembrance. Howard Thurman, the minister of Martin Luther King at Boston University. To Thurman, I respond that this season of remembrance always asks me two questions. What do I love, and to what do I belong? The church's answer today to the second question is that we belong to something bigger than we perceive. That we are surrounded by people here in the pews, but also by those who have gone. By our making this beautiful human tapestry of love and faith, we are reminded that we live into the eternal. That we can't sever the connections that we have with those who loved us into being. That we can forget, but we never cannot belong to a great cloud of witnesses that hold us. So today is an act of remembrance. It really is an act of resistance to the disease of disconnection and spiritual loneliness and the loss of faith. Our collective remembrance is joy and pain. It pushes us into asking, what is the meaning of our lives? And what is the meaning of a day like this in church? To which we respond, to be a communion with each other and the dead, and to see the connections come to life here in this moment, eternal as they be. And today should humanize us to each other. It should remind us that everyone in this room is remembering someone who has gone. That we are all part of a chorus of human life that is also lost. It should remind us of the hands of God that hold us in the eternal, in this sanctuary today. My colleague Richard Gilbert wrote, "We belong to a great community of all souls, a long procession of humanity stretching back into time beyond our comprehension, sharing life with us in this time and place. We are privileged to be part of such a race of creatures," he says, "who have marveled at the miracle of birth, who have found meaning in the midst of life, and who stand humbly before the mystery of death. We are servants of life," he says, "and wish to be counted among those who will work for justice, love, and compassion." What I like about Gilbert's emphasis is that it's on belonging. We belong to a great community of souls. It is our privilege to be part of, to stand humbly with, and to be counted. So today we collectively remember, mourn, and rejoice in a world that includes so many lives, ours and theirs. So as we do each year now, we invite you to tread lightly on the human path of life and death. gain and loss, love and loneliness, despair and hope, and see each other into being today. See here a community of all souls who stare back at us through the ages, our family and our friends, our companions on this journey. They hold us and we hold them in this fragile experiment of life. And I invite you into a practice of remembrance. We will do three things. We will hold those who mourn death in the last year. We will speak the names of those that you carry into this sanctuary today, and we will name those members of the church who have died this year. So join me in this time of blessing as we bless the mourners today, those whose memories are fresh with the faces of the dead. I invite all of those of you who are mourning a death of someone in your life who died in the last 12 months to stand as you are willing and able, and if not able, to raise your hands and take your neighbors. Please rise if you are mourning the death of someone in the last 12 months. And if you wish to be stabilized one way or another, feel free to request a hand of someone near you. For you, we read this meditation. It is a Jewish tradition to speak these words to the mourners. For those rest of you who are sitting, we respond together. We remember them. Bless our memories now, friends, as we remember them. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now part of us as we remember them. Mourners, we are your ballast. If you let us, we are here for you. We acknowledge you today. We see you. We love you. We hold you here in this moment. Please be seated. And we name those members of this church who have died since All Souls Day last year. We present their pictures here on the screens of the sanctuary. They are Bob Beavers, Bob Dane, Marcy Kaiser, Jean Laughlin, Dwight McAnally, Jim Meadows, Lou Mitchell, Chuck Moore, Ben Stevens, Ed Stone, and Jack Spruill. We invite you now to speak aloud the names of those you brought into this sanctuary today as remembrances, those you brought a photo of, or those you are remembering today. Speak the names now into the congregation. We hold all these souls here in this place now as we enter into a moment of prayer. Blessed are those who mourn and those who know loss. Blessed are those who know a leftover love, those who may have lost trust in the world but find hope in the seeds of remembrance and acts of friendship, in affection, in standing among us. Blessed are those mourners who stood here in our midst who rise to honor the passing of a person in their lives. We hold them especially today. Blessed are those who can be held by this community. May they find peace. Blessed are those who hold dearly to life and know what it takes to tend what isn't ours for the having. Blessed are those who do not fear what we all must relinquish, but we rejoice in life and in its blessings. Blessed are those who mourn in the great cloud of witnesses we remember today. For all the saints of our lives who came before and come to us in dreams and memories and nourish the Spirit with love and live forevermore through us, we pray this prayer. Amen.